Hello and welcome back to Goosebumps HorrorTown. This is the 0 reveal for Event 20. Yeah, 20 updates already with these limited time stuff, and it seems like we've been getting these a lot now. I'm sure wishing to get permanent stuff soon. It would be nice, but maybe next year we'll get something, but I don't know. Let's find out. I mean, you got me, so... yeah, anyways, regardless of that, let's go ahead and talk about this update. Right. So, as I usually do, I tend to talk about what is this update about, book-wise and all that stuff and more. But usually I start off by talking about the teaser. And you'll notice that there is no teaser on Facebook. However, if you recall my playthrough back, the last one, the Shocker on Shock Street, you'll notice that I kind of teased something here with a B2S, fine, back to school. And, of course, there was also this little nugget near the end here, where Mrs. Marr was talking about a man by the name of Mr. Chameleon, and something about changing things from black to white. Now, if you put the two and two together, then you would probably want to know what exactly this update is. And, quite frankly, I'm about to reveal that to you right now. I'm doing something a little bit new this time. Last time I kind of spoiled it because, you know, the backdrop and everything, but this time, with the magic of I can now just make it 0 and, well, you'll see. Anyways, yes, if you haven't guessed yet, this update is going to be the haunted school. Or haunted school in this case, but yeah, the haunted school. Finally we got a school update after a few, wow. Right, so finally we get some sort of update like that, and quite an interesting one. It's probably one of the well-recognized books out of Sign's work. However, I'm sure a lot of you are probably not familiar with how it goes. I wouldn't blame you either. And not really much when it comes to interesting different change of title, except for a few ones here. Like, for example, there's the French one. There's an interesting one in Indonesia. And then, of course, we have an interesting book, which is this here. Not exactly sure what exactly language this is, but, yeah, it's a nice cover art, and it kind of illustrates a bit more what the book's about. So, I figured before we go and talk about the content, let's go ahead and talk a bit about what this book's about and what this whole thing's based off of, shall we? So, a brief introduction. The stories roughly revolve around a few kids, and they've been getting themselves ready for a school dance, like you usually see that tend to happen during this time. And while they were doing this, they noticed that there's this weird classroom full of, like, statues, and they're wondering what that's all about. And then I think one of their teachers came by and was like, oh, that's just the memory of class of 47, because for some reason they just magically disappeared one day during 47 and then never seen again. And they were curious about that. Weird, whatever, they didn't think much of it. Then later on, they heard a rumor about a mysterious photographer who saw him last, this class of 47, and that was a man by the name of Chameleon. Nothing was really talked about this man, and you don't really see much of him. All you'll know about him is that he hates kids, and he's a photographer. That's about it. Well, one thing led to another, and they ended up finding themselves in this other dimension. Basically, it looks exactly like the school and everything around them, except this time, it's in black and white. They refer to this place as the Gray World. And, yeah, kind of spooky. Kind of reminds you of another town that kind of has that resemblance, doesn't it? Almost wondering where Stein got his inspiration from. But I digressed. Anyways, that being said, the kids ended up meeting some other kids, and they were in black and white, and they were wondering what's going on. So the kids tell them, and turns out that Chameleon took a picture of them, and first of all, the class of 47 was notorious and infamous for being really bad kids, like real bad kids. And they ended up getting themselves, after doing a class photograph, they magically just disappeared, and they got put into this world here. Now, some of the kids that they were talking to inside the classroom were still sane enough. However, most, if not all of them, have lost their color and have now become black and white. And they might be asking, well, what about the other kids? And they're like, well, they're savages now. They've turned feral. And I'm like, ooh, okay, this is getting interesting. But it turns out one of the characters in this group is Thalia. And Thalia, it turns out to be an actual, not a kid, originated from this place. And it turns out what happened was she had lipsticks on her for a long time. When after everything got sucked out of color, she one day opened up her lipstick to find color still there. So she decided to say, just to see color once more, she drawed something on, and then all of a sudden it opened the portal to the other world. So she quickly kind of skipped through it, portal closed, and now she's back in normal world. However, she's in black and white, and it's about a few decades later. So she basically reveals this to the kids. They figured, okay, I'll let you back out, draw the thing again. She said, I'm going to stay back here because I feel like it's more proper for me. It's too crazy out there. So, and I might have asked, you might be saying, well, how come they didn't find out that she was, a girl like this girl? Why didn't they find out that she was black and white? Because that's very noticeable. Well, she put a lot of makeup on her. Yeah, that's Stein's conclusion, is that, oh yeah, he put lots of makeup on her, so this just looks really weird. But regardless, I can only imagine what it looked like, but back to the story. Anyways, the kids come back. Oh, spooky venture over. Except, not really, because like always with Horror Time, there's always a twist. And this twist is they're getting their photo picture taken, and guess who's deciding to take it? You guessed it, Chameleon. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The end. So that's the story. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's not really what you think. Because when you look at the cover, you think, oh, man, it's a spooky school and haunted school, right? But no, it's not. And especially when you look closely, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's gray stuff in the closet. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. I also love the fact, and I want to point out that this skull on the thing here kind of resembles a certain skeleton we know, but I digress. So, yeah, that's about much of the story. There's not really much material as far as, actual in film or whatnot goes, and quite frankly, despite, the cover looking interesting and people knowing about it through the cover, nothing really else is known about it. So, let's go ahead and move on and jump into the new update here. So let me go ahead and read to you what the people sent to me. Time to get back to school. Or maybe not. The school has been mysteriously destroyed. The Shadow Lord has returned. After many years with shadowy desires. Why return now? Maybe Thalia's presence can give Lucy and Dustin some answers. She knows about the hidden side of the city, but are they brave enough to follow her and check it out? So yeah, you can tell that this update is going to be a little bit more interesting. It might be interesting because Shadow Lord, what is that all about? Well, I'm not going to spoil too much of that because Chameleon's character is very, very intriguing. Because, let's put it this way, they took a character that had absolutely nothing, like no mention whatsoever, just vagueness of like, oh, bad guy, bad, that's it. So they decided to take it and just change it to something a little bit more creepier, and oh boy, is it really creepy, and I can't wait to talk about it during this playthrough. But, regardless of that, let me talk to you about what they've changed in this update as far as content goes. First thing to talk about is our new characters. There are two new characters coming into the game, one of which is Thalia. She's going to be a free character this time around, and she's going to be available through the event currency, which this time is these haunting, creepy photos. And a mysterious figure on them too. I'm wondering who that is, but yeah, well, I guess we'll find out later on. Maybe you'll never know. But yeah, Thalia is going to be our interesting character. She is going to be required during this quest line, as you'll see, and there's a lot to talk about with her when we get to the character per se. Now, there is a premium character, of course, and he's a little bit cheaper than our last one, but unfortunately not by much, and yeah, it is Mr. Chameleon. with, well, I won't spoil it here, but, oh boy. Regardless, though, Mr. Chameleon, let's talk about him. Yeah, so as you'll know in the story, there's not much to say about who this guy is and like his vagueness of it. So of course, because they have such a vague blank canvas, they decide to make something interesting with this man. And that is because he also has someone else with him, and this is a creature by the name of the Shadow Lord. The Shadow Lord is a very intriguing figure. I won't spoil too much here, but needless to say, he is quite the figure to be fearful for. Now, there is one new event scene only. There's only one new scene, and it's the event one. And it is going to be the Bell Valley Middle School, the one that's basically taking place during this story. The interesting thing about the Bell Valley area is that you'll need both Chameleon and Thalia, but they also introduced a few new characters, which are the Gray Kids, like I mentioned before, so they're vaguely here as well, but not by much. But you'll see later on in the questline. It's pretty intriguing. You'll find out. Don't worry. Alright. Now, one thing to note is you might be interested to see they did change a bit when it comes to the mimics in this game. I won't spoil what they are just yet, but in this questline you're going to see my reaction to them, and they're quite intriguing what they decide to change them to. So, yeah. But before we end it off, I might as well talk about what book they released for this one. As you know, as of late, they've been updating with new special books, and this one's no of the wiser. This one is that they updated and they gave us the new book they introduced this time is Please Don't Feed the Vampire. And oh boy, the worst event thus far has come back in a bundle. I'm going to be intrigued to see what this is going to be offering for us, and stay tuned for a special replay of that. And, well, it had to be, spoiler alert on this one, I didn't be able to play during September because of an error, which I'll talk about when that episode comes up. But, needless to say, there's not much of that there. So I think that's about it. There's not much to talk about. You know, it's not like a juicy update with a lot of meat on the bone. It's pretty basic and bland and, generic, as you probably expect. But let's hope that this event isn't as generic as the story that they adapted this thing on. So, with that in mind, I'll be seeing you next time for more Goosebumps HorrorTown playthrough for the Haunted School. So until then, I've been Grim, and I'll be seeing you next time. Oh, and by the way, class is in session. Are you ready?